Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be restoring some vintage plush. So come along with me. This is our friend here. He was sent to me by a friend already de-stuffed like this. He's got some stains on him. He's a little rubber faced. So we're gonna give him a bath. So I'm gonna throw some warm water in this pot, and I normally use Myers soap because it's pretty mild, but I had to use what I had on hand, so I just used some light dish soap. So we're gonna give him a bath and we're really gonna drench him. Don't be afraid to do this. It can stand it, but you don't want to use like harsh chemicals, so a really mild soap will do it. And then you just scrub away at all of his bits, especially those paws and feet. And this one, spoiler alert, was a little difficult to get these stains out. So later in the video, I combat that with more crafting. So I'm just giving him a really good bath in the scrub, and I'm trying to work on the areas that are pretty tough. So like especially this back of his paw. So I took a little scrub daddy. I tried to get most of it out, but then I realized I was starting to remove some of the fur, which is a really like short fur. He's not like, like a rushed in rubber face. So I let him hang out to dry outside. I'm in California and it was like over 100 degrees today. So he dried out pretty fast outside. I just set him out in the sun. So we're going to stuff him with polyfill, and there's about half of a bag of this polyfill left that I have. And believe it or not, we're actually going to use all of it. Even though he's little, polyfill condenses a lot when you're stuffing it into plush, and you want to get in all of the crevices and all of the space so that your plush is actually filled out properly and there's not like lumpy bits or like space basically in there. So I stuffed his head first, and then you can use a long pair of scissors, but I have these huge tweezers that I acquired from my late father. He was a science teacher, and so he had a ton of these that he used in his classroom and stuff, probably to dissect things like frogs and what have you. But he taught AP science and physics and all that stuff. So anyways, don't worry, they're clean. So I'm just stuffing away, and I'm using the tweezers. That's why I like using the tweezers. But if you don't have tweezers, obviously you can use scissors, because I can grab the polyfill with the tweezers and then push it into where I want it. Where the scissors, I'm just like using the tip of the scissors to kind of push things around. But the tweezers are a lot more efficient to just grab it and push it where I need it. So like I said, I'm going to use it was about half of a bag of polyfill. So even though this plush is tiny, and see, he's coming together, but see, he's got his butt's not filled in. So we got to move the polyfill around, and you just continue to find space, where it needs, and just push it around, manipulate the polyfill around inside until you get it where you want it. And it's just constant checking. You push some in, and then I'd like to like kind of put them back together. Like I bring his head up and see, is that enough yet? No. Okay. Then he needs more fill here. And I kind of pinch the paws and the legs to see, is there enough in there? Do I need to maneuver it around? And so, yeah, I just keep checking. So see how his shoulders still look, there's not enough. So there's the last of the polyfill, and I have just stuffed him to the brim. And then now he's ready to be sewn up around the neck. So I have this huge bag of embroidery thread, because once upon a time I also liked to embroider with embroidery hoops and patterns and what have you. So I got this off of Amazon. I'll link it below. It was an entire embroidery kit. So I just found a thread that matched him as closely as possible. And then this is just one of the needles from the embroidery kit. And then I actually ended up going to a bigger needle here. So I'm just showing you that. So I poked a hole through the base of the head right at his chin. And then I'm pulling the thread through. And this can be, getting it started is the tough part, but then once you get a groove, because in the beginning you're trying to like get all the stuffing to stay in and you're just trying to get it starting to close up. But once you get through the initial sewing or the initial start of the stitch, then it's pretty easy sailing here. So I'm not doing anything fancy with the stitching. I'm just making sure I'm going in the same direction each time. So I come up from the bottom and then into the top part and pull through. And then I do this over and over again all the way around his neck. And if you're liking what you're seeing, don't forget to subscribe and give me a like and a follow. So now we're all stitched up around his neck, and you can leave him this way. I typically don't when I restore plushes, but before we, I'm going to cover up the stitching, but before we do that, we are going to paint his face and kind of give him a fresh new face. So I had a difficult time with this. I should have just used a small brush from the beginning, but I wanted that sharp edge so I didn't get paint up on so I switched to a small brush here, but I basically picked up too much paint and I kind of flooded his fringe here, or his bangs. And so I had a hard time with this. I had too much paint on there and it ended up flooding the bangs. And I tried to combat it and I got frustrated and I had to actually step away and take a break. But, that's part of crafting, So you can just see like there's just too much paint and I should have wiped some of it off. And then I tried to clean up what was overlapping, and that didn't work because I have too much paint between like the fringe pieces, and here's where I'm like, oh, there's too much paint sitting up here. I'm trying to spread it around and move it, but it's just not happening. And then I wanted to clean up the edges, and me being too impatient, I should have waited for the acrylic paint. This is acrylic paint, by the way. So you don't need anything fancy for this. You just need to seal it properly. But I wet my brush a little bit and I tried to like wipe it away, but I should have waited till it was dry to do this, because it just ended up smearing the black paint around and I got super frustrated. And I actually ended up moving on to the rest of his face, and then my phone died and I didn't realize it. So I ended up painting his face completely off camera, not knowing it. So here's his face all done. I had to give him lashes because, they need lashes. It just cutens them up. And I'll go back in and seal that later. But now we're going to address the fringe and this rickrack that I'm going to add to the bear, because he needs a little flair. He's still pretty stained. His stains, as you can see, didn't come out that great. And so, while he's still much cleaner than he was, he still looks dingy. And so I'm trying to give him a facelift without, completely just scrapping him. So I'm putting the rickrack around his neck. I pre-measured it. And with rickrack, especially if you have a larger size, it's much better so you don't have excessive glue peeking through, to just glue along the rickrack versus just around the neck and then applying the rickrack, and it'll just be cleaner. You won't see so much glue. And then I'm taking, so I did his neck, and I don't think I clipped it. I think but I added a second collar to thicken it up. I felt like the one string, because you could still see some of the stitching around the neck I didn't like it. So I put a second row of rickrack just around the neck. But here, as you can see, I'm doing his like bonnet head all the way around his head. And I really like how this came out. I think it really helped kind of liven it up a little bit because he's looking dark and dingy still. But we're rolling with it. So then you can see the paws. They're dingy. So I have some felt. This is like a softer felt versus like the stiffer felt. And I'm just trying to see if I want to do yellow or this kind of creamy white. And I go with the creamy white, and I'm going to actually overlay this felt, and I'm going to cut it to size. So we're just going to cut like a small square here, and then I'm going to lay it on the foot because it's kind of hard shaped to trace. So I'm cutting in towards the foot, and this will all the way around. So, and this will kind of give me a template of the circle to cut. And then I just go in and cut a circle, meeting each point, the end of each cut there to kind of give me a circle. And then that will make your cut without having to like bring a pen or a marker and trying to trace it onto the felt and all that. And then we're going to add the rickrack around it too. And we're going to do this on all 4 of his appendages. So we're just gluing this down, and then we'll put the felt on, and then we'll put the rickrack around it. So now we are going to address the paws, and I cut an oval shaped piece of felt, and I put it over like kind of like a taco, I guess, over each paw. And then we're just doing the same thing again with the rickrack and going all the way around. So once I finish that, we're pretty much done. I added some felt in the ears to cover up the kind of dingy pink in there. And other than that, I'm just going to seal in his face, and he is all done. Let me know what you guys think. If you want to see more of these kinds of plush restorations, I love doing these as well. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks. Bye.